healthy. Okay, you have a different game maybe. It's just the bottom line. I got to play at home. These are playoff games. You can tell from how many minutes the Stars play. By the way, the Stars weren't missing any games last night, right? Like, everybody played last night, right?
Are there people arguing that these are not playoff games?
Well, everybody's saying, they're not playoff games. They're play-in. They're playoff games. I love the play-in tournament, by the way.
I think it's great.
Well, listen, if you can get me to a television set, that tells me that you, as a sport, have created urgency. Because I'm not going to sit around and watch regular season baseball games for 9 innings. So I just instinctively, I go to stuff that matters. I watch the Masters, March Madness. Last night, I could have done a lot of things. Got the dogs, opened up a beer, and sat for 4.5, 5 hours to watch the NBA basketball because I knew it mattered, and the games were great.
It did matter.
And the games were fantastic.
I loved it. I thought they were both great games. So the top NBA MVP candidates this year are Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid. If Kevin Durant had a vote, he would choose Embiid as this season's winner, but Katie doesn't think he'll end up winning the award.
There's a lot of players that have been controlled by their narrative. Some of it has been because of the player. Some of it just has been because of, perception of other people about that player. In Joel's case, more people just like Giannis and Jokic. Simple as that. That stuff really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, when it comes down to awards like that. But yeah, Joel, he probably just liked those other guys better than you personally. It's not fair at all, but that's just usually how it goes sometimes. But if I had a vote, I would choose Joel.
By the way, this is fascinating to me. I'm not saying he's wrong, but so the players think people don't like Joel Embiid.
Joel Embiid thinks that.
Why would that be?
They don't like
He's
Joel Embiid.
fun. He's on social. He overcame the Ben Simmons nonsense. Who doesn't like Joel Embiid? I don't understand this narrative.
Joel thinks it's a Philadelphia thing, Philadelphia bias.
Oh, they're obnoxious, but so is Boston. We don't
Sixers
care.
Bias. Well, I don't know. Out of the voters, look, I got to be honest with you. I'm growing very bored of the NBA MVP.
I'm over that award. It's the Heisman Trophy. I gave up on it 10 years ago.
I'm starting to just not care anymore.
Yeah.
Cool, great honor, but the amount that LeBron has won is laughable.
If you look at other shows that do what we do, how often they talk about awards and how often we do. We almost never do. I don't talk about the Heisman. I think awards are stupid. Once they gave it to Westbrook as the MVP, who elevates nobody, I'm like, I'm out. Okay, it's a silly award now. It's a stat award.
You were very adamantly against him as the MVP.
I thought it was ridiculous.
Well, Jokic is favored this year. And I think when people get outraged at the idea that Jokic shouldn't be the MVP, I'm not saying he's not an unbelievable player and hasn't had an MVP season. And if he won, it wouldn't be outrageous.
Right.
But they are a 6th seed in the West.
Yes, right. That means they may not be a top 12 team in the league. Yeah, it's a very fair argument.
So you're arguing that he's had to overcome injuries on his team, which I totally understand. So does that mean that any player that plays for a good team with full compliments should not qualify as the MVP?
That's kind of a weak argument. And nothing against Jokic, but how many stars miss games? Every team is beat up. Chicago's fallen apart. The Lakers fell apart. The Clippers fell apart.
Without Ben Simmons for half the year.
Outside of Phoenix, and they lost Chris Paul for an hour, everybody in the league falls apart. So I don't want to hear about, my guys got hurt. Everybody's hurt. Jesus, Kevin Durant had James Harden quit on him, and Kyrie couldn't play home games, and he got within an inch his toe on the three-point line of going to the finals last year. I don't want to hear about my guys are hurt. Everybody's hurt.
Right. And again, Jokic has had an unbelievable season. You're looking at the statistics right now. But if the argument is he had a better statistical season than he did last year when he won the MVP, then it's just a stats award and just give it to whoever has the best stats every year.
That's my argument.
So, what is an MVP? What does value mean? And you can't just keep talking about he just doesn't have his players with him, so that's why he should win the MVP. So Giannis, because before the Bucks weren't good enough. Now that the Bucks are the defending champs, now Giannis is on too good of a team to qualify for MVP.
Well, that's what it is.
And Joel Embiid is either got Philly bias
now we're bored. We got bored with Michael Jordan winning it. We got bored with LeBron. Now we're bored with Giannis because his team's too good. It's his team's too good because of him. They have a losing record when he doesn't play.
Right. And then I don't really know what the argument against Embiid is other than just that Jokic has better statistics overall than Embiid. But Embiid has the second best odds at plus 250, according to Fox Bet. Jokic is the favorite. I think I reached the point officially this year where I don't care about the MVP anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
I just am like, I'm not.
I don't.
Whoever wins it, congratulations to you. It's still a nice thing to win, but I can't get into the debate at all.
I'm not an awards fan. Anybody that's listened to me from the Portland days, I've won some awards in my career. They're somewhere in the garage. I don't. We all know who can play and who can't. We all know who can broadcast and who can't. We all know there are people that are good at their job. I'm not. Oh, he won an Emmy. She won an Emmy. Yeah, but we don't really think they drive audience. And awards are totally subjective, from Hollywood to media to sports. They don't validate stuff for me.
True, I guess, accomplishment is winning, right? That's the ultimate. You're the best. That's why we have parameters for competition. So, yes, I'm with you. If it's a subjective award, which we're about to talk about in a second as well, they are nice and prestigious, and it does mean that you're, honored amongst your peers and recognized for your work.
We just don't care. I thought the veteran team would win, even though they were on the road. Anthony Edwards' aunt was great. So this really hurts the Clippers' chances of advancing in the playoffs, because now, if they get in, they have to face Phoenix in round one. They're not beating Phoenix. I do think they match up pretty well with Phoenix. And if Kawhi played even 10 minutes a half, be a total handful. Total handful. But this really hurts their chances. So I'll have to redo my playoff bracket from yesterday, because I had the Clippers going a long way. I thought they were going to win. So I like a lot about them. Games at home, they probably win last night. Led by 7 late. Games on the road, probably don't win that. So here's the interesting part to me about the Clippers. Mount Balmer can be volcanic. Steve Ballmer's the richest owner in the NBA. And, by the way, significantly richer than about 95% of the owners. He loves basketball. He lives for basketball. When he was the number 2 guy at Microsoft, he was legendary for just going and hanging out at high school basketball tournaments. Loves the sport. Richest owner in the league. Battling the Lakers. Really shrewd, really clever, really smart, and really intense. He's not paying for an 8 seed. Okay? He's beside himself this morning. So the Kawhi Leonard deal has been underwhelming. Paul George is hurt too much, not quite as clutch as they hoped. Mount Balmer may explode here. They have a huge front office. I think it's the most highly compensated scouting staff and front office in the NBA. And what compounds it is that when Ballmer bought this team, there's been an opening in the West, right? Sort of like when Michael Jordan retired for baseball for a couple years, all of a sudden the East was wide open. The Lakers have a couple of stars, but they're old and they're falling apart. And the Warriors have a few stars, but they're old and can't stay healthy. So the old talented teams are kind of rickety, and they're sort of the last couple of years have opened the door for the Clippers. They fly through it. And the young teams in the West, Memphis and Minnesota and the Pelicans and Denver, that are really good, they're not quite ready to win the West. So right now it should be Phoenix and the Clippers. That's who it should be. The old star-driven teams are falling apart physically, and the young star-driven teams are not quite ready. This should be, for the last 2 years, a Suns-Clippers conference, period. He's paying for it. The guy knows basketball, Steve Ballmer, loves basketball, will spend whatever it takes, and he's got an 8 seed. And they're going to open up with the Suns. If they, beat the winner of the Pelicans Spurs, which I think they will. But losing last night really hurts. And there's no crime in losing on the road to a super talented team that played with a ton of energy. Paul George was great. Here's what he had to say after.
They have a talented roster. So when Cat goes down, D'Lo steps up, Anthony Edwards steps up. And then their role guys, they shine in their roles. So it's really what happened. Thought that fourth quarter, 50-50 balls we didn't get. We didn't rebound well enough. And I thought we just didn't execute great down the stretch.
I still think they're getting in, but last night's loss makes it way tougher, and I'm going to have to rescind my Clippers going to the Western Conference Finals to meet the Suns, because now they face them in round one. They'll win some games. They're not winning that series. Joey's been the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Yeah, that seating matters a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Listen, it's